Hey there Guardians, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be looking at a build to support possibly the best new weapon in the game, the brand new stasis sword, the Slammer. So before we get into the build, let's take a quick look at the Slammer sword, because let's be honest, this thing is a beast. So first of all, the Slammer and the Slammer Adept are exactly the same. There is no benefit of one over the other than the fact that the Adept version allows you access to Adept mods. Actual base stats of the weapon are exactly the same. So the Slammer is a vortex frame stasis sword, and it has access to some fantastic perks. The standouts in column 3 being Relentless Strikes, where you gain 1 ammo back for every 3 hits, Eager Edge, which allows you to lunge faster, and I'm no doubt a lot of people are excited by this as it means you can skate, and Chain Reaction, which chains stasis damage among enemies whenever you score a kill. And then the standouts in column 4 are Cold Steel, where light attacks will apply 40 slow stacks and heavy attacks apply 60 slow stacks, and that's for 4¼ seconds in PvE, 1½ seconds in PvP, and Bait and Switch, where dealing damage with all of your weapons within 7 seconds of each other will grant you a 30% damage bonus for the next 10 seconds. So the most popular combinations are quite unsurprisingly Eager Edge Bait and Switch or Eager Edge Cold Steel. However, Relentless Strikes and Bait and Switch personally I think has more potential, as it just means while we've got Bait and Switch going we're not using as much ammo, but it does mean we can't fly around. However, I've been obscenely lucky and dropped one that has Relentless Strikes and Eager Edge as well as Bait and Switch. I've also got a Cold Steel with Eager Edge, and I've got a Cold Steel Chain Reaction, which is really good fun for ad clearing. It's also worth noting that Bungie announced that this weapon is going to be able to have enhanced perks in Final Shape. However, until more details are released, we're just going to leave that there. So let's look at the build. We're going to begin with a Stasis Titan, using the exotic arms, the Stronghold, because these maximise our guard stats on equipped swords. And what that means is it passively grants 100 guard resistance and guard endurance to swords. Now while we're guarding, it grants a 50% damage resistance, and that stacks with the damage resistance provided by the sword itself. Blocking a hit will grant 2 stacks of perfect guard, and this tops out at 100 stacks. And then, once we use our stacks, and that's done by dealing damage, we activate Restoration ×2. So we've got extra resistance, and then Restoration on a stasis build. I'm liking this already. But it gets better, because if we have just 1 stack of perfect guard, we get 4 seconds of Restoration ×2. However, this goes up to 16 seconds of Restoration ×2 if we have 100 stacks of perfect guard. So we're incredibly difficult to kill. Looking next to our subclass, there's a lot of dealer's choice here. So take whatever barricade, jump, and grenade you feel appropriate. For our aspects, Tectonic Harvest is the only one that I would say is required, and this means that Shattering Stasis Crystal will create stasis shards, and those stasis shards give us melee energy when we pick them up. For your second aspect, it is completely dealer's choice. However, I like Diamond Lance, which means that when we shatter or defeat targets with a stasis ability or a stasis weapon, it can create a stasis lance, which we can then throw or slam to cause stasis effects around us. Moving on to fragments, we want to begin with Whisper of Chains, which means that while we're near a frozen target or a friendly stasis crystal, we take a 40% damage reduction, and that lingers for a little over half a second. We want Whisper of Rhyme, which means collecting a stasis shard will also grant us a small amount of overshield, and we want Whisper of Conduction, which means that those stasis shards will actually track to us so we don't have to go out of our way to collect them. Next we want Whisper of Fissures, which will increase the damage and size of the burst of stasis whenever we destroy a stasis crystal or a frozen enemy. And then the last one is personal preference, but I would always go for Whisper of Rending, which gives primary ammo weapons an increased damage against stasis crystals and frozen targets. For our armour stats, you want to prioritise resistance, discipline and recovery in that order. Get all three as high as possible. If you can hit the triple 100s, more the better. Looking next to our seasonal artefact, on column 1 take whichever champion perks are applicable to your gameplay style. In column 2, Kindling Trigger, where being radiant causes solar weapons to apply scorch to unscorched targets. And the second one in column 2 is entirely up to you. I like From Whence You Came, which gives us increased ability damage against taken and scorned combatants. In column 3 we want Flint Striker, where rapid solar weapon precision hits and rapid solar weapon final blows will grant us radiant. Torch, which means that while we're radiant we'll deal 5% increased damage against any enemies that are affected by strand or stasis debuffs. Wished Intervene, so while our super is over 80% charged, we will gain additional orbs of power. Then on column 4, Pillar of Ice, where defeating a frozen target will spawn stasis crystals. This feeds in nicely to our subclass build. Dragon's Bite, where breaking a combatant's shield with a strand or stasis weapon has a chance to suspend or freeze them. And then in column 5, Hail the Storm, where shattering frozen targets and stasis crystals deals increased damage, and shattering stasis crystals releases shards of ice that cause additional damage and slow. And then finally, Rays of Precision, so while we're radiant, solar precision final blows will cause combatants to ignite. Thinking next about what weapons we're going to pair with the Slammer, in the kinetic slot we either want something that is stasis or something with osmosis, such as the Traveller's Chosen. In the energy slot we want something that is solar and that can do precision damage, so unfortunately no fusion rifles here. This is so we can activate Flint Striker, Kindling Trigger and Rays of Precision. And then obviously, in our heavy, star of the show, the Slammer. And this brings us finally on to our mod setup. So on our helmet we're going to begin with a Harmonic Siphon, which gives us orbs of power whenever we get a kill with a stasis weapon. We're going to take Hands On so we gain increased super energy whenever we get melee kills, and a heavy ammo finder, because we're building this around the Slammer, we want that heavy ammo. On our arms we're going to begin with a Heavy Handed, which will give us orbs of power whenever we get a kill with our melee. We're going to add on to that a Momentum Transfer, so causing damage with a grenade will reduce our melee cooldown, and an Impact Induction, where if we cause damage with a powered melee, it will reduce our grenade cooldown. So we're creating a little loop there. On our chest we want to begin with Lucent Blades, which increases the energy recharge rate of our equipped sword. You may also want to add on a Harmonic Reserves, so we have increased sword ammo on hand. However, this one isn't essential. But what you do also want is whatever damage resistance mods are applicable to the activity you're undertaking. On our legs, we're going to begin with a Recuperation, which restores 70 HP of health whenever we pick up an Orb of Power. We also want a Stasis Weapons Surge, which increases the damage output of our stasis weapons by 10% whenever we have an armour charge. And a Harmonic Scavenger, which increases the amount of ammo we pick up whenever we run over a heavy brick. And then finally, on our class item, nothing too exciting here, a Bomber, so we reduce our grenade cooldown whenever we use our class ability, Powerful Attraction, which automatically collects nearby orbs of power whenever we use our class ability, and a Reaper, so if we get a kill within 10 seconds of using our class ability, we will generate an orb of power. There isn't really a gameplay loop for this build, other than when you're using your sword, and that is guard, then swing, just to give yourself the restoration times 2. Other than that, it's just go out and have fun. Stronghold makes you nigh on unkillable, and the sword itself is phenomenal if you have any of the good perks on there. So that's it, Guardians. This is how we maximise our Slammer's potential. If you've enjoyed this video and are interested in more Destiny 2 content, please don't hesitate to drop a like and maybe even a subscribe. It will really be helping the channel grow. But until next time, whatever you're doing, Guardian, I hope you have a fantastic day.